Thom Hartmann here on the news. You need to know this. President Obama is pushing full speed ahead on a long list of goals he set for his second term. Just since his State of the Union speech less than a week ago, he's already put forward a plan for universal preschool, called on Congress to vote on gun regulations, started forming a voting rights commission, and now he's tackling immigration. According to USA Today, the White House is circulating a draft immigration bill which would create a new visa for undocumented immigrants living in our nation and shorten the path to legal residency to 8 years. The draft bill also includes more security funding and would require businesses to use a new system to verify the immigration status of new employees. The bill is quite similar to the bipartisan immigration plan that came out last month, but Republicans are criticizing the president's plan anyway. Florida Senator Marco Rubio said any legislation that didn't include Republican input would get no support, saying that, quote, if actually proposed, the president's bill would be dead on arrival in Congress, end quote. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul said the draft legislation was proof that, quote, the president doesn't want immigration reform, end quote. These statements are just more evidence that Republicans will vote against any legislation that President Obama puts forward, even when it's made up of their own ideas. A spokesman for the White House said that the administration has not prepared a final bill to submit. Let's hope that Congress can pass their own version of an immigration bill so they won't oppose a common-sense path to citizenship just because the president supports it. In screwed news, Senator Lindsey Graham is very worried about the sequester, but he isn't worried about the cuts to programs like WIC and Head Start. He isn't worried about job losses or federal employee furloughs. Nope, he's worried about defense contractors. So much so that he's suggesting taking health coverage away from 30 million Americans just so that they can avoid cuts to military contractors. During an interview on Fox News Sunday, Senator Graham was asked about the looming sequester and replied with his suggestion saying, quote, if you want to look for ways to find $1.2 trillion in savings over the next decade, look at Obamacare. Don't destroy the military, end quote. Senator Graham has opposed every idea to avoid the sequester put forward by Democrats or the president. It appears the Republicans don't really care about the devastating austerity looming in the sequester. They just care about using the cuts to attack Obama. Oh, and if their buddies in the defense industry don't get hit with the across-the-board spending cuts, to Republicans, that's just an extra bonus. In the best of the rest of the news, 35,000 people rallied in Washington, D.C. this Sunday to call for immediate action on climate change. The rally was put on by numerous environmental activist groups like the Sierra Club and 350.org. People came from dozens of states around our nation to help form part of a human pipeline, which is meant to highlight action the administration can take right away to protect our environment, that is, reject the Keystone XL pipeline. Bill McKibben, founder of 350.org, spoke at the event saying, quote, there is no time for half measures. We have to start leaving carbon in the ground, end quote. Just recently, the president called on Congress to pass bipartisan legislation on climate change, or he said, quote, if Congress won't act to protect future generations, I will, end quote. Well, participants of the largest environmental rally ever just said they don't want the president to wait for our broken Congress to act. Obama can make a change immediately to help protect future generations. He can stop the Keystone XL pipeline from pumping toxic tar sands oil through our communities. Tell the president you want this done now. Go to tarsandsblockade.org. Another protest also made the headlines yesterday as thousands rallied against the partial privatization of health care in Spain. In the third so-called White Tide demonstration, protesters in 16 Spanish cities took to the streets carrying banners saying public health is not to be sold, it's to be defended. Healthcare privatization is just one of the crippling austerity measures being imposed to cut that nation's debt. One civil servant, Javier Tarabila, spoke out against the privatization, saying, this is pillaging of our public services, looting something we've all contributed to through taxes to give it to private companies to run for profit. Well, here in America, we should all be paying close attention to the riots and protests in response to the privatization of the public commons in Spain. Not only are the austerity measures there crippling that nation's economy, but they're making it more difficult for Spanish citizens to survive. It's time to fight back against the Republican austerity measures taking hold here in our country before they devastate our economy, just like they've done in Spain. And finally, drug agents in Union County, Illinois, found themselves in a sticky situation over the weekend. Responding to a tip about a potential meth lab, the agents raided Laura Benson's home. However, the only substance being cooked up was maple syrup. Benson's neighbor called in the tip after seeing a collection of tubes and buckets they thought looked suspicious, and the sheriff's department swarmed the house. Apparently, the Bensons have been making syrup for about 5 years, but this is the first time it's gotten such a big reaction. Ms. Benson says that the family is grateful for their attentive neighbors, and she said, "I just want to put their minds at ease and let them know it's maple syrup, and they're all welcome for pancakes if they want to come over." The drug agent said the hunt continues for the nation's biggest syrup kingpin, so be on the lookout for Mrs. Butterworth. And that's the way it is today, Monday, February 18th, 2013. I'm Thom Hartmann on the news.